Yo, you wanna see something cool? No? Well, I'm gonna do it anyway.
Step into the scene! No, nobody can do it like me! Zoop house plate with the kick cuisine! I was the black top king! 360s in my green machine!
Bet you didn't expect me back so soon. Truth is, kid, the video was ready from the start. But while you're here, let me quickly tell you about Valkyr. The OG Exalted weapon warframe, she somehow still manages to be viable to this day. So let's start from the ground floor. First, there's Ripline, which will either pull Valkyr to a location or a target to Valkyr. Its augment is a worse arcane steadfast, and while a somewhat fun additional movement option, the only good part about it is that it works on your allies, though they've nerfed the amount it affects them over the years. Her second ability is Warcry, which does a radial wave that increases the armor and melee attack speed of herself and any allies in the area while slowing enemies. Its augment Eternal War is fantastic, as it increases the duration for every melee kill. Her third ability, Paralysis, makes you scream at people when they get too close. It'll drain a third of your shields and deal damage based on that and your power strength. You can make a funny build with this ability using Pillage, but it's not really worth it and it doesn't scale to high level content very well. Finally, there's Hysteria, which for a very steep energy cost gives you access to Valkyr's Talons, which are an incredible crit weapon with an admittedly kinda lame stance. 5% lifesteal on melee attacks, and complete invulnerability for its duration. This invulnerability only applies if you have your claws out, so if you swap to any other weapon, you'll become vulnerable again until you swap back. If you want an actual in-depth look at Valkyr's claws, go watch Coolkid 369 series on Exalted weapons. He does brilliant breakdowns, which help me understand why I love the build that I'm about to show you so much. So throughout this video, I'll be referencing certain parts of his video with APA citation, as you should with all serious topics of research. So focusing on the two abilities that are actually worth looking at. Warcry can become self-sustaining if you're getting melee kills, and Hysteria takes care of everything else. So all we have to worry about is sustaining our energy. I just went for the easiest fix for this in Helminth on Lycan's Hunt, which increases the drop chance of health orbs on melee kill and energy orbs on headshot. Interestingly, Valkyr's axe kick heavy attack is really consistent at hitting headshots on bipedal enemies. Now we can take advantage of the health orbs using Equilibrium or Purple Archon shards. The best part of this ability though is that killing an enemy with 5 or more stats effects will increase its duration much like Eternal War, which is very easy to achieve if you're using a Manifold Bond Diriger setup configured for 6 elements. This means we have a self-sustaining source of energy, as well as a self-sustaining source of armor and melee attack speed. Now we've taken care of Hysteria's energy problem, let's maximize Valkyr herself. The mods can be split up into 2 sets, build and tech. For build, I'm going for a combination of mild duration, strength and efficiency, using Archon Vitality with heat on the claws for extra damage. For tech, I'm using Eternal War with Warcry for self-sustain so I can dedicate my entire energy bar to Hysteria, and I'm also using Arcane Battery with Gladiator Aegis to get Valkyr past the 500 energy threshold for Purple Archon shards, giving the doubled melee critical chance buff. This is also why I use Equilibrium to get energy from health orbs instead. You can just rely on the armor buff from Warcry to go past the threshold, but I like to have access to it by default and the extra crit chance on combo is nice. And since we'll mainly be using our claws, we can use our melee weapon as a Gladiator mod stat stick for a higher buff. I've also got on Combat Discipline. With this build, you're going to be spending 90% of your time invulnerable, so this is basically just passive healing for your squad mates with no downsides. And finally, we've got to consider our Hysteria Augment.
The augments can be broadly classified as the good one and the bad one. So, moving on to the bad one, we have Hysterical Assault.
Never mind, don't listen to this guy who works for Big Samaras, he's trying to put cooldowns on our abilities. Now, Hysterical Assault at first glance seems kinda shit. Ripline's already a pretty fast movement option, and when combined with melee movement and standard parkour, you can quite easily close 50 meters without the teleport. But what makes it so good is, unlike the Armar set or Rift Strike, this isn't bound to heavy attack, meaning you could just use this thing from repositioning without losing your combo counter or Tenakai opportunities. By modding Valkyr's Talons to maximize crit and crit damage with a little bit of viral and heat, she becomes a teleporting Immortal Nuke who completely controls the battlefield while outputting a stupid amount of crit. For a Tenakai, I would recommend Opportunities Reach. As Frozen said in the scrapped hotfix video, Opportunities Reach is the best option for increasing your KPM if you're already outputting enough damage, and that extra time in the opportunity window also gives you more time to teleport and use a Tenakai in a more effective location. Now to round off this build, let's look at some choice weapons. You would think that the route would be a good choice, but unfortunately its passive doesn't actually apply to Hysteria. Because of this, ditch the primary. Secondary and melee is where it really takes off. Petty Trash, my server mod, told me about this tech a while ago, where you can gain some overshields and then go invincible, which lets you take advantage of conditional mods that require overshields without having any risk. Because of this, I use the Rakta Dark Dagger fully modded for radiation and status, and Cascadia Overcharge on a secondary of your choice. We don't care about the Dark Dagger's actual damage, we only want to take advantage of its passive, which gives shields on irradiated targets. I've also got one Topaz Archon Shard, configured for secondary crit chance on heat damage kill, so the kills with my claws go further into my secondary crit chance. Here's a fun fact I didn't know, but I found out thanks to Coolkid. Turns out the reason I never noticed the accumulation of damage on Valkyr is because my build makes me constantly swap weapons, which resets the damage threshold on the rare instance I actually deactivate my ability. Finally, for Focus Tree, I have on Narrowmon. None of the other trees are really that beneficial for this setup, so you might as well take advantage of Power Spike, so you don't have to focus that hard on sustaining a combo counter. This setup on Valkyr is what I play when I really can't be bothered with Warframe's bullshit. It does so much damage so easily without any risk that it feels like turning off the enemy scaling. Okay, this time I actually don't know what the next video is going to be. Have a good one.